Welcome to the Equipping Leaders podcast. I'm Natasha, and my goal is to equip leaders with tools to make their leadership journey easier and more expansive. Today, I'm going to start talking about habits, where they come from, and how they help us. I've always been really interested in habits, like how they're formed, how they're broken, why we hold on to them for as long as we do, even when we know that they're not moving us toward our goals. But we all have habits that we know we should incorporate more of, whether it's more movement throughout the day, drinking more water, time blocking for better focus. We all have these great habits that we've cultivated over time that serve us well, and we can use those to create these other good, strong habits. So, at their core, habits are repetitive behaviors and routines that are hardwired into you for a number of reasons. Some habits we picked up in childhood, either out of necessity or because we saw someone else do it. Some we picked up along the way in our adult lives, usually for the same reasons we picked them up in childhood. And when we talk about habits, most people have a tendency to think of their bad habits or the ones that they want to change. We also have many good habits. Those are the ones that keep us moving towards our goals and keep us healthy. So let's rewind here a little bit. So the concept of habits has actually not been around for very long. In fact, it's only been a little over 100 years since William James identified habits in his 1914 work. So obviously, habits themselves have been around since the beginning of time, but it was James' work that shed light on the repetition of behavior for a functional or dysfunctional purpose. Since then, there have been countless studies and thoughts on habits and their impact. And like I said a little bit ago, habits are repetitive behaviors and routines that are hardwired into us, and they're cultivated and shed throughout our lives. Research has shown that we develop habits by the age of 9, meaning that we don't need an adult or someone else to tell us to repeat a behavior. It is fully ingrained in us by that time. And even individuals who have done large amounts of work on themselves or who really understand their minds can still hold on to habits that were developed in childhood. Brushing your teeth is a really basic example of this. Most people consistently brush their teeth at least once a day, which is a behavior they may have learned in childhood. Not speaking up when someone is upset with you could also be a behavior that you repeat from childhood. As you go through your day, just start to notice things you do without really thinking, right? And then note the things that you do regularly that do require you to think about and put some mental effort into to ensure they get done, but that are also part of your regular schedule, right? So for me, it's drinking water. That doesn't come as naturally as I would love for it to. So instead, I have these little alarms set throughout the day to remind me to go and drink water. Or every time I go to take a drink of water, I'll take like 10 big gulps. So you don't need to do anything with this information. So as you're kind of moving through, seeing what you pay attention to or what you intentionally focus on, you're not changing anything right now. You're just starting to take notice. Now, we know that the concept of habits has been around for 100 years, but why do they even exist at all? Habits are a way that our brain saves energy and effort. The University of Leicester reported that people make around 35,000 decisions in a single day. And that sounds incredible because it is. From the time we wake up, we are making decisions. And by the time we reach the afternoon, many of us feel a slump and we can't quite figure out why. One answer is because we are mentally exhausted. We've already made thousands of decisions. So, to help us out, our brain finds ways to save us time, and it does this through the formation of habits. When we start to repeat a behavior or action, the brain grabs onto it and makes it second nature so we no longer have to decide whether or not to do it. Right? There's a concept in neuroscience that if it fires together, it wires together. Right? So if I do this thing, your brain is going to remember that. It's going to wire that as part of, it's going to connect those two things for you. Now, there are certainly times when our brains are in overload and we form habits more easily than at other times. These are usually habits that we don't want to hold on to. But it's important to remember that these habits are serving something that we needed or need at specific times. Just because something is a habit doesn't mean it's still serving us, and we can absolutely let it go. Our brain wants to help us out by reducing that decision fatigue. But why are there some habits that we can't seem to grab onto, like working out daily or reading for 30 minutes a day? Now, because our brain is hardwired to help us with decision fatigue, it's also hardwired to help us avoid discomfort and danger. When something seems like it will cause discomfort of any kind, our brains will give us millions of excuses to not pursue it. When we're building new habits, there can be a lot of mental turbulence we have to work through to help make it a strong habit. We have all seen those motivational images with quotes about how you have to push through pain and keep going, and that to some degree is accurate. We have to keep leaning into our habit in order to make it a habit. Thank you for listening.